Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Big dreams don't change your life. Small habits do. We live in a world that glorifies massive goals, overnight success stories, and giant leaps forward. But the truth is, the people who build meaningful, lasting change are not the ones who wait for a miracle moment. They are the ones who wake up every day and choose to do the small things, again and again, until one day, those small things add up to something extraordinary. Think about it. A mountain isn't formed overnight. It's built grain by grain, layer by layer, over time. A strong tree doesn't shoot up in a single day. It grows inch by inch, quietly, consistently, until one day it's tall enough to give shade to generations. Your life works the same way. Small daily habits create the foundation that big dreams can stand on. Without them, your dreams collapse. You can dream about writing a book, but unless you build a habit of writing a page a day, that book never leaves your imagination. You can dream about getting fit, but unless you start with a habit of walking 10 minutes a day, that fitness never becomes real. You can dream about financial freedom, but unless you practice a habit of saving small amounts, your dream never has legs to walk on. Dreams inspire you, but habits build you. Dreams excite you, but habits transform you. Dreams give you vision, but habits give you results. Which one really matters in the long run? Let's be honest. How many of us have made huge resolutions only to abandon them within weeks? We said we'd lose 20 pounds, but when the scale didn't budge quickly enough, we gave up. We said we'd start a business, but when success didn't come overnight, we quit. Why? Because big dreams can overwhelm us. They feel too heavy, too distant. Habits, on the other hand, feel light. They feel possible. And when you do them daily, they build momentum that carries you forward even when motivation fades. Let me share a story. There was a man who decided he wanted to run a marathon. At first, the idea terrified him. He wasn't an athlete. He couldn't even run around the block without losing his breath. If he had focused on the dream, it would have crushed him. But instead, he focused on a single habit. Every day, he laced up his shoes and walked 1 mile. Then he walked faster. Then he jogged. Then he ran. Month by month, his endurance grew. A year later, he crossed the finish line of his first marathon, not because of the dream itself, but because of the habit that made the dream possible. Your life is a reflection of what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally dream about. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't do it once and say, "Great, now my teeth are healthy forever." No, you do it daily, because you know consistency matters more than intensity. Habits protect you the same way. They protect your health, your growth, your future. Now ask yourself, what small daily habit could you start today that your future self would thank you for? Maybe it's reading 10 pages a day. Maybe it's journaling every morning. Maybe it's taking a 5-minute walk after dinner. It doesn't have to be big. In fact, it shouldn't be. The smaller it is, the more powerful it becomes. Because small habits are sustainable, and sustainable habits become unstoppable. Here's the secret. Small habits compound. Just like money earns interest over time, your habits earn results. One workout won't transform your body, but 100 will. One kind word won't change your relationships, but speaking kindness daily will transform the way people see you. One page won't make a book, but a page a day for a year, that's a 365-page masterpiece. So stop worshiping big dreams and start building small habits. The dream is not the destination. The dream is a spark. Habits are the vehicle that get you there. Without the vehicle, the spark burns out and leaves you in the dark. And remember this, dreams without habits are fantasies, but dreams with habits are inevitable. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you feel ready. Start small. Start today. Start now. Because in the end, your future will not be built on the size of your dreams, but on the strength of your daily habits. Here are some key points related to this. Big dreams inspire you, but small daily habits create lasting change. Habits are the foundation that make big goals achievable. Consistency matters more than intensity. Small steps build momentum. Habits compound over time, just like interest. creating powerful results. Small actions feel doable and prevent overwhelm, unlike massive goals. Dreams without habits are empty fantasies, but dreams with habits become reality. Big dreams inspire you, but small daily habits create lasting change. That idea alone sounds simple, almost too simple, but if you really sit with it, it can completely reframe how you see your life. Think about the last time you set a massive goal for yourself. Maybe it was getting in shape. Maybe it was launching a business. Maybe it was breaking free from debt. In the beginning, the dream itself felt electric. It filled you with energy and possibility. You could see yourself standing on the stage, holding the trophy, wearing the clothes that finally fit, celebrating the success you always wanted. That vision lit a fire inside you. But then reality arrived. You woke up one morning, looked at the mountain you had promised to climb, and it felt impossible. The dream that once gave you wings suddenly became the weight pressing you down. That's the trap of big dreams. They give you a glimpse of what's possible, but without the daily habits to bridge the gap, they quickly turn into a reminder of what you haven't yet achieved. Now, picture this instead. Imagine someone who doesn't focus on an entire mountain, but instead asks themselves one question. What can I do today that moves me an inch closer? They don't worry about the marathon finish line. They just focus on putting on their running shoes and jogging around the block. They don't stress about building $1 million company. They just focus on making one phone call or improving one product. They don't obsess over losing 50 pounds. They just focus on drinking more water today or swapping fries for a salad at lunch. Those actions may seem so small that they almost feel laughable, but here's the truth. Their power isn't in what they do today. Their power is in what they do every day. Habits are the quiet builders of transformation, slowly stacking brick after brick, until one day you look up and realize a fortress has been built. There's an old saying, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act but a habit. Aristotle's words carry a timeless truth. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your habits. If you dream of being a writer but never sit down to write, the dream stays a fantasy. If you dream of being healthy but never create the small rituals of movement and nutrition, the dream fades into regret. But if you anchor your days with habits that align with your vision, your life can't help but bend in the direction of that dream. Think about compounding interest. If you put a small amount of money into a bank account and never touch it, at first it feels insignificant. $10, $50, even $100 doesn't feel like much. But leave it there, let it grow, let it multiply, and in 10 years, in 20 years, you'll have something substantial. Habits work the same way. One push-up won't change your body, but one push-up every day, building into 5, then 10, then 50, changes your strength. One kind word won't heal a relationship, but kindness offered every day creates a bond that nothing can easily break. One journal entry won't change your mindset, but journaling every morning rewires the way you think, slowly shifting you into someone who sees possibilities instead of problems. The problem is we underestimate the small and overestimate the big. We tell ourselves it has to be massive to matter. We think unless we're making huge sacrifices or giant leaps, we're not really moving forward. But look at nature. A river carves canyons not by crashing through rock in a single day, but by flowing patiently, consistently, for thousands of years. A seed becomes a tree not in a moment of explosion, but in the quiet persistence of growing roots and reaching toward the sun each day. Life itself whispers the same lesson. Small, consistent actions are what create the most powerful transformations. Let me give you a story. A man once decided he wanted to change his life. He was overweight, broke, and drowning in self-doubt. He had tried before to make drastic changes. He signed up for intense workout programs, made grand financial plans, declared he would become a completely new man in 30 days. Every attempt failed. Why? Because he tried to overhaul his life overnight. Then one day, he did something different. He decided he wouldn't focus on the dream anymore, but on a single habit. Every morning, he would wake up and make his bed. That's it, just making his bed. At first, it felt silly, almost pointless. How could making a bed rebuild a life? But weeks later, he noticed something shifting. The habit of order in the morning gave him a sense of control. That small win carried into his day, And soon, he was cooking healthier breakfasts. That led to short walks. Those walks led to jogs. The sense of discipline carried into his finances, where he began saving just a few dollars each week. Years later, that man looked back and realized that his entire life had changed, not because of one giant decision, but because of one small daily habit that sparked a chain reaction. It's the same with you. You don't need to figure out the entire journey right now. You don't need to know how you'll achieve the massive dream that feels out of reach. You just need to choose one habit that moves you forward and then repeat it. Let it become part of you. Let it anchor your day. Before long, it won't feel like effort. It will feel like identity. And that's the real magic. Habits are not just about what you do. They are about who you become. So ask yourself this. Are your habits today aligned with the person you want to be tomorrow? Because your dreams are not waiting for someday. They are being shaped by the choices you make right now. And if you want a future that's brighter, stronger, and more meaningful, don't chase a dream. Build a habit. Dreams are the spark, but habits are the fire that keeps you warm. And that fire, if you tend it daily, will light up every part of your life. Habits are the foundation that make big goals achievable. Imagine building a house. You can design the most beautiful structure in your mind, filled with tall windows, elegant walls, and a roof that touches the sky. But the foundation is weak. Everything you build will eventually crumble. Dreams are like that house, dazzling and inspiring, but without the foundation of habits, they cannot stand. Most people dream big, but they fail to lay the groundwork that makes those dreams possible, and then they wonder why their vision collapses before their eyes. Think about a student who dreams of becoming a doctor. The dream is noble, but it cannot carry them through the long nights of study, the exams, the sacrifices, the years of training. What carries them is a habit of studying daily, the habit of persistence, the habit of showing up to class even when they are exhausted. Without those habits, the dream of saving lives never moves beyond a fantasy. The same is true for anyone chasing something greater. The dream is the vision board, but the habit is the brick and mortar. Without one, the other is nothing more than air. You can see this truth everywhere. Athletes don't win championships because they dream about holding trophies. They win because they've built habits of practice, discipline, and resilience. A basketball player doesn't become great by playing only on the big nights when the stadium is full. He becomes great in the empty gyms, shooting free throws 1,000 times, running drills until his body aches, waking up before the sun to condition when no one is watching. Those invisible habits become the foundation that supports the visible dream. If he only relied on his dream of winning, he'd quit the first time fatigue or failure showed up. It's the habits that give him the strength to keep going. The same applies to your life. You might dream of writing a novel that changes the world, but if you don't have a habit of sitting down each morning and putting words on page, that novel will never exist. You might dream of financial independence, but without the daily habit of managing your money, tracking your expenses, and saving consistently, independence will always stay out of reach. You might dream of becoming more confident, but unless you practice the small habits of speaking up in meetings, standing tall, and pushing yourself into uncomfortable conversations, confidence won't grow. Every dream needs a supporting structure, and that structure is built from habits. There's a story about a man who wanted to climb Mount Everest. For years, he dreamed about reaching the summit, imagining himself standing on top of the world with the wind on his face and the world at his feet. But he didn't just wake up one morning and start climbing. He built habits long before he ever set foot on the mountain. He trained his body daily, building endurance through running, hiking, and carrying heavy packs. He practiced breathing at high altitudes. He disciplined himself with small challenges, pushing his limits in controlled environments. These habits became his foundation, and when the time came to climb, he had the strength, resilience, and focus to reach the peak. Without those habits, his dream would have been nothing more than a dangerous fantasy. When you understand this truth, you stop idolizing the dream and start respecting the process. You realize that the big goal doesn't live in the future. It lives in the small decisions you make every single day. Habits are the soil in which dreams grow, and without that soil, the seed of a dream has nowhere to take root. People love to talk about overnight success stories, but if you dig deeper, you always find years of small habits that no one saw. The musician who suddenly becomes famous has spent thousands of hours practicing alone. The entrepreneur who suddenly launches $1 million company has spent countless nights working while others slept. The person who suddenly loses 100 pounds has been quietly choosing better meals, exercising daily, and building strength habit by habit. It's easy to underestimate this because habits are boring. They don't give you the rush of excitement that big dreams do. They don't feel glamorous. They're not flashy or Instagram-worthy most of the time, but they're the quiet power behind every success story you admire. They're the unseen hours, the repeated choices, the small actions that no one claps for. Yet without them, the big goals you admire would never exist. It's like the roots of a tree, hidden underground, unseen, often ignored, but without them, the tree cannot stand. Ask yourself, what's holding your dreams right now? Are they standing on solid ground, or are they floating in the air? If you dream of writing, do you have a habit of writing daily, even when no one reads? If you dream of health, do you have the habit of moving your body and eating with intention? If you dream of success, do you have the habit of discipline with your time, energy, and focus? These are the real questions that matter, because a dream is only as strong as the habits that support it. There's another powerful way to see this. Think of habits as scaffolding. When a skyscraper is being built, scaffolding surrounds it. The scaffolding doesn't look beautiful. It's not meant to be permanent. But without it, the building could not rise. Once the building is complete, people admire the height, the design, the shine. They forget about the scaffolding that once surrounded it. But that scaffolding was the only reason the dream of the skyscraper could ever become real. Your habits are the scaffolding of your dreams. They may not look impressive to others. They may not get applause. But they are the structure that allows your life to rise. This is why people who focus only on dreams end up frustrated. They keep asking, why isn't it happening yet? They don't realize they're missing the foundation. They're trying to hang a heavy picture on a wall without nails to hold it. They're trying to build castles in the sky. But the people who focus on habits never worry about whether the dream will happen because they know it's inevitable. As long as they keep laying bricks, eventually the wall will rise. As long as they keep watering the seed, eventually the tree will grow. They understand that the dream is not about if, but when. So when you think about your own life, don't just ask, what's my dream? Ask, what's the habit that will hold this dream up? Because the answer to that question is the true predictor of your success. The habits you create today will decide whether your dream collapses or whether it stands tall for the world to see. And when you look back years from now, you'll realize that the dream was just a vision, but it was the habits that gave a home. Consistency matters more than intensity. Small steps build momentum. It's easy to get swept away by the idea that one grand effort, one giant leap, will suddenly change everything. We admire stories of overnight breakthroughs, viral successes, and people who seemingly rise to greatness in a single moment. But if you look closer, beneath every so-called overnight success lies years of quiet, consistent effort that no one noticed. The truth is, it's not the intensity of what you do once in a while that defines your life. It's the consistency of what you do every single day. Think about it like this. Imagine pushing a heavy boulder up a hill. If you give it one massive shove, sure, it might move a little, but soon it will roll back and settle where it was. But if every day you place your hands on that boulder and push steadily, even just an inch, over time you'll find yourself standing higher and higher up that hill. That is the power of consistency. Intensity may impress in the moment, but consistency is what transforms over time. Most people start their journeys with intensity. At the beginning of a new year, gyms are full of people working out for 2 hours a day, sweating, straining, believing they can undo years of neglect in a week. But come February, most of those people disappear. Why? Because intensity without consistency burns out. On the other hand, the person who commits to walking 30 minutes a day, every day, might not look dramatic in the beginning, but give it 6 months, give it a year, and their life is transformed. Consistency builds momentum, and momentum carries you further than any single burst of energy ever could. There's a story of a writer who dreamed of finishing a novel. At first, she was fueled by inspiration. She locked herself away for an entire weekend. writing furiously for hours, barely sleeping. By Sunday night, she had dozens of pages, but she was exhausted. Weeks passed, and she couldn't find the same spark again. Her dream of finishing the novel started to feel impossible. Then one day, she changed her approach. Instead of chasing intensity, she committed to writing just one page every day. One page. That's all. Some days it was easy, some days it was painful, but she stayed consistent. A year later, she held a finished manuscript in her hands. It wasn't intensity that made her an author. It was consistency. Consistency is like drops of water falling on stone. One drop means nothing, but thousands of drops over time carve valleys, shape landscapes, and change the very face of the earth. That's how habits reshape you. They don't shout, they whisper. They don't impress immediately, but they leave a mark that cannot be erased. When you choose consistency over intensity, you choose transformation over time rather than frustration in the moment. Consider the tortoise and the hare. We've all heard the fable. But have you ever thought about why it rings so true? The hare had intensity. He had bursts of speed, flashes of energy, but he also had arrogance. He believed those bursts were enough to secure victory. The tortoise, on the other hand, had consistency. He didn't rush. He didn't stop. Step by step, steady and sure, he reached the finish line first. That story isn't just for children. It's a mirror for our lives. Most of us act like the hare, sprinting with excitement, then burning out when results don't come quickly. Few of us choose the way of the tortoise, moving slowly but surely, building momentum with each step. Yet it is the tortoise who always wins. In real life, think about relationships. You don't win someone's trust with one grand gesture. You win it with consistency. Showing up when you say you will, listening when they need to talk, being present in the ordinary days. One intense moment of affection cannot outweigh years of neglect, but years of consistent care create bonds that nothing can break. The same principle applies to every area of life. In health, in career, in self-growth, intensity might spark, but consistency sustains. There's a powerful quote by James Clear. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Systems are built through consistency. Anyone can set a goal. Anyone can dream big. But few are willing to show up daily, even when motivation runs dry. Consistency doesn't rely on how you feel in the moment. It relies on commitment. Some days you'll feel like doing the work, and some days you won't. But if you keep showing up day after day, your small steps accumulate into unstoppable progress. It's like learning an instrument. If you practice for 6 hours one day and then don't touch it for weeks, you won't improve. But if you practice for 30 minutes every single day, your skills will skyrocket over time. It's the rhythm of practice, not the bursts of effort, that create mastery. The same is true with language learning, fitness, business, or any meaningful pursuit. Consistency multiplies your effort, while intensity alone eventually fades. Momentum is the reward of consistency. At first, it feels hard, like pushing that heavy boulder. Every step requires effort, but eventually, the boulder begins to roll on its own. Your habits become second nature. Your small steps create traction, and soon, what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. That's the gift of momentum. It carries you further than willpower alone ever could. So if you want to change your life, stop asking, how can I do everything all at once? And start asking, what can I do consistently? Because it's the small daily steps, repeated over time, that will carry you to your destination. Big goals may shine brightly in your imagination, but it is the steady glow of small, consistent action that lights the path forward. And if you stay faithful to process, one day you'll look back and realize that the person you became was shaped not by intensity, but by the quiet power of consistency. There's a hidden truth that many people overlook in their pursuit of greatness. The small choices you make each day, the little disciplines you practice when no one is watching, end up defining the entire trajectory of your life. It's rarely one single decision that makes or breaks you. Instead, it's the accumulation of those small, almost invisible actions that determine where you arrive years from now. Think of it like planting seeds. A single seed seems insignificant, almost laughable in its size, But given time, water, and care, it can grow into a tree that towers above everything else in the field. Yet most people underestimate the power of these seeds because they look so small. They wait for the grand opportunity, the dramatic turning point, not realizing that life is being shaped right now by the things they do daily, quietly, and often unconsciously. Imagine two friends starting their careers at the same time. One tells himself, "It doesn't matter if I skip a day of learning. One day won't change much." He comes home tired, turns on the TV, and promises he'll get back on track tomorrow. The other, even when tired, decides to read for just 15 minutes or practice one skill he knows will be valuable later. Fast forward 5 years, and the difference is undeniable. The first has little to show beyond experience that feels repetitive, while the second has built an entire foundation of knowledge and discipline that sets him apart. That 15 minutes didn't feel life-changing on any given night, but strung together, it rewrote his future. This is a compounding effect of small choices. We often think life changes in a single dramatic moment: winning the lottery, meeting the right person, stumbling upon a groundbreaking idea. But the truth is far less glamorous. Life changes through the unnoticed repetition of habits. There's a quote by Annie Dillard: "How we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives." Think about that. It's not the once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that shape you, but what you choose to do with your ordinary Tuesday afternoons. If you fill them with distraction, comfort, or avoidance, your life drifts in that direction. If you fill them with focus, learning, and intentional action, your life expands in ways you couldn't imagine. Take health as an example. No one becomes unhealthy overnight. It's not one donut, one skipped workout, or one late night that ruins you. It's the pattern, the accumulation of those small neglects that over time erode your body and energy. On the flip side, no one becomes fit and strong in a week. It's a decision to lace up your shoes even when it's raining, to choose water over soda, to sleep instead of scrolling on your phone. These aren't dramatic moments. They're small choices, repeated again and again, that one day lead you looking in the mirror and realizing you become someone entirely different. There's a story about a man who decided to improve his marriage. He felt distant from his wife, and he thought about planning a big surprise, an expensive trip, a grand gesture. But instead, he tried something simpler. Every single day, he wrote her a small note. Sometimes it was a sentence, sometimes it's a word of appreciation, and sometimes it was a memory they shared. He left it on her pillow or in her bag before she left for work. At first, she barely reacted, but over time, she began to notice. She began to feel valued again. Their conversations deepened, their laughter returned, and their love grew stronger. It wasn't one vacation or one gift that saved their relationship. It was the accumulation of small acts of love, practiced consistently, that rebuilt their bond. The same principle holds true in the pursuit of mastery. Consider the story of the Japanese concept of Kaizen, which means continuous improvement. Companies like Toyota use it to revolutionize industries, but the principle came from something deeply human. Small, incremental change, practiced daily, leads to extraordinary results. You don't leap into excellence. You walk into it one small, deliberate step at a time. A violinist doesn't master the instrument by playing for 10 hours once a month. She masters it by practicing scales every day. Sometimes so repetitively it feels dull. But those small choices, those hours of invisible labor, are what allow her to one day step on stage and create magic. It's easy to dismiss these small disciplines because they don't give instant gratification. Reading one page won't make you wise. Saving $5 won't make you rich. Speaking kindly once won't transform a relationship. But when you do these things daily, they stack up like drops of water filling a jar. Eventually, the jar overflows. And yet, most people quit too early. They don't see the jar filling. They don't feel the progress fast enough. So they abandon the very habits that would have changed everything. That's why patience is essential. You must trust that the small things matter even when they don't seem to. Think of bamboo. For years after it's planted, nothing seems to happen. You water it, you nurture it, and still the soil looks empty. But underground, the roots are growing, spreading, preparing. And then one day, seemingly overnight, The bamboo shoots up, growing feet in a matter of weeks. That's how life works. The small actions you take today may not show visible results tomorrow, but beneath the surface, foundations are forming. And when the time is right, all those unseen efforts will erupt into visible success. There's a simple but powerful exercise some people use to change their lives. They ask themselves, what's the smallest action I can take today that my future self will thank me for? It could be making your bed, calling someone you've been meaning to reconnect with, writing a single paragraph toward a book, saving a small amount of money. It's not about changing your life in one sweep, but about nudging it in the right direction consistently. Over time, those nudges turn into momentum, and that momentum becomes unstoppable. The danger is that the same principle works in reverse. Just as positive small choices compound into greatness, negative ones compound into decline. Every time you say, I'll do it tomorrow, every time you give into comfort instead of growth, you're planting seeds too, seeds of regret, of stagnation, of missed potential. Years later, you look back and realize that the life you're living wasn't built by one catastrophic mistake, but by countless small compromises you didn't even notice at the time. That's why awareness is everything. You have to wake up to the reality that your future is being written right now, not someday in the distance. The question is, are you writing it intentionally, or are you letting it be written for you through unconscious repetition? Because the truth is, you are always practicing something. The only question is what you're practicing. If you're practicing excuses, distraction, or neglect, you're becoming skilled at those. But if you're practicing discipline, kindness, focus, you're becoming skilled at those instead. The beauty of this truth is that it gives you power. You don't have to wait for a miracle or a massive opportunity. You don't have to rely on luck. You can begin where you are with what you have, today. And by honoring the small choices, by valuing the ordinary disciplines, you are quietly but surely building the extraordinary life you dream of. Because in the end, greatness is not built in a single moment of glory. It is built in the small hidden moments, stacked one upon another, until one day the world looks up and calls it success. There's a saying that goes, motivation gets you started, but consistency keeps you going. When you think about the habits that truly transform a person's life, it's not the ones they do once in a while with bursts of excitement, but the ones they do every single day, even when no one is watching, even when there's no applause, even when it feels boring or hard. Consistency is a quiet force that separates those who dream from those who achieve. It doesn't shout, it doesn't make headlines, but it builds silently, layer by layer, until one day the results are undeniable. Picture a mason laying bricks to build a wall. One brick doesn't look like much. 2 bricks don't impress anyone. But brick by brick, day after day, the wall rises. Stop halfway, and all you have is a pile of stones. Keep going, and eventually you build something that can shelter generations. That is what consistency does in our lives. It takes the ordinary, repeated act and turns it into something extraordinary. Think of someone learning to play the piano. At the beginning, every note feels awkward, fingers stumble, mistakes are constant. It would be easy to give up, and many do because they expect progress to feel faster. But the one who chooses to sit down every day, even for 20 minutes, slowly transforms. Over time, the fingers move with grace. The notes flow together, and music comes alive. People call it talent, but it isn't. It is consistency dressed as talent. It is the invisible hours of practice no one saw, adding up until the result becomes visible. The truth is, most people are not defeated by lack of ability. They are defeated by inconsistency. They start strong, fueled by excitement. But when that initial energy fades, they stop showing up. They go to the gym for a week, then miss a day and tell themselves it's fine. One day turns into 3, 3 into a week, and soon the habit dies. Consistency requires something deeper than excitement. It requires commitment. It's about deciding that your goals matter enough that you'll keep showing up no matter how you feel. There's power in doing something even when you don't feel like it, because it teaches your mind that discipline, not emotion, is in charge. There's a powerful story of a writer who promised himself he would write just 1 page every day. That doesn't sound like much. 1 page is barely a few minutes of work. But he never missed a day. Rain or shine, sick or healthy, inspired or tired, He wrote his page. Some days the words were brilliant. Some days they were terrible, but he showed up anyway. At the end of the year, he had 365 pages. A complete book. People marveled at how productive he was. But the secret wasn't a sudden burst of creativity. It was a quiet, steady march of consistency. One page at a time, he created something lasting. Consistency is also the antidote to the illusion of overnight success. When you see someone succeed, you often see the highlight, the stage moment, the breakthrough. What you don't see are the years of unnoticed, repetitive work that made that moment possible. A singer standing on stage may look like they were born gifted, but behind that voice are countless rehearsals, thousands of hours of training, endless days of showing up when it would have been easier to quit. Their consistency built the foundation for their dream to stand on. Life rewards consistency because it creates trust. Think about relationships. You don't build trust with one grand gesture. You build it by showing up every day, by being there, by keeping your word, by making the small but consistent effort to love, to listen, to care. The strongest friendships and marriages aren't built on fireworks, but on consistency. Consistent kindness, consistent support, consistent presence. Without it, trust crumbles, because inconsistency sends a message that you cannot be relied on. One of the most overlooked truths is that consistency compounds. Missing a workout today won't ruin your health, and doing a workout today won't suddenly make you fit. But repeated over time, the compounding effect becomes enormous. Think of saving money. Putting aside a small amount each day doesn't feel like much at first. You look at your account and wonder if it even matters. But as days become months and months become years, that money multiplies, interest builds, and suddenly you have something substantial. Consistency takes something small and, through the magic of time, turns it into something powerful. The challenge is that consistency is rarely exciting in the moment. It feels mundane, repetitive, even dull. Waking up early to work on your goals when no one else is watching, saying no to distractions when it would be easier to give in, practicing the basics when you crave shortcuts. None of that looks glamorous, but that's the very reason most people don't succeed. They look for sparks instead of steady flames. They want the excitement of a big leap without the patience of small steps. But the universe rewards a steady flame because it lasts. Ask yourself, what would happen if you committed to just one consistent habit for a year? What if you read for 20 minutes every day? That's 7,300 minutes of knowledge in a year. What if you wrote a page a day? That's a book in your hands. What if you exercise 5 times a week? That's 260 workouts in a year, enough to completely transform your body. The results aren't magical, but they're inevitable because consistency makes progress unstoppable. There's another powerful aspect of consistency. It changes your identity. When you show up every day for something, you begin to see yourself differently. If you run every morning, soon you stop saying, "I'm trying to be a runner," and start saying, "I am a runner." If you write daily, you stop saying, "I want to be a writer," and you become one. Identity shifts through consistent action. The habit becomes not just something you do, but someone you are. And when your identity changes, your actions follow naturally. It's important to remember that consistency doesn't mean perfection. You will miss days. You will fall short. But true consistency is about coming back, again and again, refusing to let failure define you. Progress is never a straight line. It's messy, filled with setbacks, but those who stay consistent understand that missing one day isn't the end. What matters is the long run, the return, the persistence. Consistency isn't about never falling. It's about always rising again. So when you think about the life you want, don't look for grand gestures or the magical breakthroughs. Look at the small things you do daily and ask yourself if they align with your dreams. If they don't, change them. If they do, protect them. Because the truth is, your future is being shaped not by what you occasionally do, but by what you consistently do. Greatness is built quietly, in the ordinary, through repetition that feels invisible until one day the world calls extraordinary. When you think about the gap between who you are today and who you dream of becoming, it's easy to believe that a single leap, a massive change, will get you there. That's why people chase big transformations. New jobs, new diets, new routines, all start with a burst of enthusiasm and a hope that everything will shift overnight. But what we often forget is that transformation is not a single event. It's the accumulation of small daily actions that stack up quietly, invisibly, until they create a tipping point. Imagine drops of water filling a jar. At first, it looks empty. The progress seems invisible. Drop after drop, nothing appears to change. But eventually, the water reaches the brim, and with one more drop, it overflows. That overflow looks sudden, but it was built from every tiny drop that came before it. This is how small habits compound into transformation. Take the example of someone who decides to improve their health. At first, they don't try to overhaul their entire lifestyle. They just start by replacing soda with water. That's it, one simple shift. Weeks later, they add a daily 20-minute walk. Months later, they begin to cook at home more often instead of ordering fast food. None of these changes look earth-shattering, but over time the compounding effect is remarkable. The extra weight drops, the energy rises, the confidence grows. People around them might say, "Wow, you've changed so much," as if it happened all at once. But the truth is, it was built slowly, patiently, through consistent small decisions that compounded into something life-altering. Compounding is one of the most powerful forces in life. In finance, we see how compound interest can turn small savings into massive wealth over decades. But the same law applies to habits. Every small choice you make compounds. If you read 10 pages a day, it doesn't seem like much. But in a year, that's over 3,600 pages, roughly 15 books. Over a decade, that's 150 books. That much knowledge changes how you think, how you speak, how you see the world. No single day of reading transforms you, but the compounded effect reshapes your entire life. The danger, however, is that negative habits also compound. A cookie a day doesn't seem harmful. Skipping one workout doesn't look like failure. Spending an extra 15 minutes scrolling on your phone doesn't feel like it matters. But over time, those small choices accumulate into weight gain, lost strength, missed opportunities, and wasted years. Just as positive habits can transform you upward, negative ones can drag you downward. That's why being intentional about the habits you choose is so important. Every action is a vote for the person you are becoming, and the more votes you cast in one direction, the stronger that identity becomes. There's a story of a man who wanted to become a photographer. At first, he didn't have fancy equipment or formal training. All he did was commit to taking one photo every single day. Just one. Some days it was of the sunset. Some days it was of his breakfast. Some days it was of strangers on the street. He wasn't chasing perfection. He was building consistency. A year later, he had 365 photos, and his skill had improved dramatically. People started noticing his work. Opportunities began to come his way. Eventually, his small habit of one photo a day turned into a full-time career. Looking back, he said, "It was never one photo that changed my life, but the thousands that stacked up over time." That is the beauty of compounding habits. They don't just change what you do, they change who you become. What makes this so powerful is that small habits are sustainable. Big changes often exhaust us. Think about New Year's resolutions. People declare they'll go to the gym every day, cut out sugar, wake up at 5 a.m., meditate for an hour, read a book a week, and transform their life. For a few days, they keep up, then the weight of too much change crushes their willpower, and they give up altogether. But when you focus on just one small, sustainable habit, it doesn't feel overwhelming. It feels doable. And because it's doable, you stick with it. And because you stick with it, it compounds. It's not the big effort you can't maintain that changes your life. It's the small effort you never quit. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't brush once for 2 hours and expect clean teeth for life. You brush for 2 minutes, twice a day, every day. It's so small it feels trivial, but that small, consistent action saves your teeth from decay and disease. Now imagine if you applied that same principle to every area of your life. 2 minutes of gratitude daily, 10 minutes of learning, 15 minutes of exercise. It doesn't feel like much in the moment, but stacked over years, it rewrites your story. There's another dimension to this truth. The emotional power of seeing small progress. Every time you complete a small habit, you send a message to your brain. I can be trusted. I keep my promises. That small sense of pride grows, and over time it fuels a deeper belief in yourself. Transformation isn't just physical or external, it's internal. Compounded habits build self-trust, and self-trust is a foundation of confidence. When you know you can rely on yourself to follow through, you approach bigger challenges with courage. Compounding habits also shift your identity in subtle but profound ways. If you write a page every day, eventually you stop saying, I want to be a writer, and start saying, I am a writer. If you run daily, you become a runner. If you practice kindness every day, you become known as someone who uplifts others. Small habits aren't just things you do, they are who you become. An identity-driven change lasts longer than willpower-driven change because it's no longer about effort, it's about expression. The beauty of compounding is that it sneaks up on you. You don't notice it in the beginning. It feels invisible, almost frustrating. But then, like a tree that grew from a seed planted long ago, suddenly the results become visible to everyone. People call it transformation, but you'll know the truth. It was built one small habit at a time, compounding into something extraordinary. So the question isn't whether small habits matter. The real question is, what small habits are you choosing right now? Because whether you notice or not, they are shaping your future. They are compounding silently. And one day you'll wake up living the reality you built with them. Oh, here's the truth you cannot ignore. Your life is not changed by what you do once in a while. It is changed by what you choose to do every single day. Small habits may look ordinary, but stacked together, they create extraordinary results. They are the drops that fill the ocean, the sparks that ignite the fire, the quiet steps that build a journey of a lifetime. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Do not wait for motivation to knock on your door. Do not wait for some miracle to lift you higher. Start now. Start small. Start today. One glass of water. One page written. One act of kindness. One step forward. These are not just habits. They are seeds of transformation. And if you water them daily, they will grow into forests of strength, resilience, and success. Remember this. Dreams remain dreams without action, and action dies without consistency. But small, daily habits, those are eternal. They multiply, they compound, and they carry you to places big dreams alone could never take you. So I ask you, what will you do today? What small choice will you make that your future self will thank you for? The time is now. The power is in your hands. Because in the end, it's not the big dreams that change your life. It's the small daily habits that make the big dreams possible. It's the small daily habits, repeated with faith, that quietly build the life you've always dreamed of. Your support means everything. If this resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.